Okay, all right, so here we're going to look at the other Unit 3 project, which is the changemaker. So I've gone in, and this is can be helpful when the assignment like is more involved. But I've just copy and pasted in the assignment and then commented the lines out there. So that way I don't have to keep flipping back and forth to find my like figure out what I need to do. Then I can also use these comments to just keep track of what I'm doing. So here, all right. And so now again, I'm going to just have you go back to, so in this is involving math. So if I go back to the math lessons or the examples in the math lesson, and one of them is dollars to pounds. And the nice thing is that code has a lot of the stuff that I need to do. So it's like assigning a variable to get input from the user, doing a math calculation, and then printing something. Okay, so again, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste that in. All right, let me just paste it in here so that I can then kind of use it. So here it says ask the user to input the cost of some item. So I'm going to call this variable item cost and equals. Now this is going to be a cost is a float variable, so I can leave the float there, and then input, and here I want it to say something like how much does the item cost, question mark. Okay, and so then so that's going to be the cost of the item, and then ask how much was paid. So I'm going to take, and again, we're just going to make our life easy, unless you really like typing. So here I'm going to label this, let's call this, maybe this, we'll just call this payment. Okay. How much money, and again, since we're talking about amounts of money, that's kind of a decimal point, so that's a float, not an integer. Okay, and so then let me get rid of, I don't need that comment there, and I'm gonna just take that part out there. I'll leave my print statement in for now. All right, so here then it says I want to know how much change is going to be given back. So I'm just going to call this variable change, right? And that's going to equal the payment minus the item cost. Okay. And then, and so again, that's going to be, it'll end up being a float. So then it wants me to say how much is returned as change. So now we want to think about like what is the, if you were actually making change for somebody, if you've ever worked in a situation where you have to do that, it's probably so automatic that you don't think of the thought process that you go through to make change. But when you think about it, right, you're going to start with, you want to give them as few coins as possible. So you're going to start with figuring out, okay, how many quarters do they need? How many dimes? How many nickels? And then last, how many pennies? So in here, in our math thing, we have a tool. All right, so let me go over here just to show you where it is. If you go under docs, look at our math operators. So the one that I want you to look at is this modulus. So modulus gives you the remainder. Like as the number divides evenly into it, then it gives you what the remainder is on there. Okay, so here right? We're doing payment minus item cost. That's the change. That's going to give me, again, a decimal value. And so, but like all of my coins represent cents. So I want to go up and I'm going to take my this will be in dollar value because that's what I put in. And so I'm going to take this, which would be my dollar value, and I'm going to multiply it by 100. And so essentially that's going to give me the change but in cents, which since all of my coins have a value in cents, that's what I need to be able to do the get a new variable that's going to be represent the well, typing and it's not num quarters. So that's going to equal. So the number of quarters. And so here's the thing to kind of understand about uh, how the variable type works. So when I take the amount of the variable change, whatever that number is, okay, and which it is essentially, I've essentially made it an integer, even though I didn't cast it as that. But num quarters is going to be my change, so that amount that's in change divided by 25, right? So I want to know how much it divides into evenly. But again, if it's not an exact multiple of 25, I'm going to end up with a number point something. Like I'm going to end up with a float. And I don't want to do that. What I want to do, all right, is I only want the whole number value of that division. And the way I can do that is I can cast it as an integer. So I'm telling it I want it to take the value that's in change, divide it by 25, and then it's not going to round. It's going to basically just chop off everything to the right of the decimal. So it's only going to give you that number that it will divide into evenly. So for example, let me just do a number example for you. So say the change was 110. Okay. And so if I divide 110 by 25, then I get right, 110 divided by 25. Okay, and so I get 4.4. All right, and so 25 goes in, so I would be giving them 4 quarters in change. And so it would, when I cast that as an integer, it would just say that num quarters is now equal to 4 on there. Okay, so that's how I get that. But then what I want to do is I need to know, okay, after I give them those quarters, then how much is left over of that, which that's the remainder. So we're going to use the modulus for that. And I'm going to use my same variable, change, okay? And this time I want to set it equal to, I'm going to do change and then modulus 25. And what that will do is now the amount it will store in the variable change is going to be whatever is left over after I divide that change number by 25. Okay. And so I would do that same process, right? I'm going to do like a num dimes equal, and then I'll do num nickels equals, and then do a num pennies equals. Okay, and doing that kind of the same type of process, right? So I'm going to divide it and store the integer value of whatever I divide by the value of the coin. And then I'm going to take and set change equal to and make it where it's going to store the leftover or the remainder amount in change. So that now, right, so that's the leftover. So I can do the same thing I did before, except now with the amount that's left over, I'm going to say, okay, so how many dimes then would that be? Right? And then do the same process here. Change equals change modulus 10. Okay? And then down here at the bottom, right, I'm going to do 4 print statements, all right, where the first part, right, we're going to put the text. So I want, I'm just going to say quarters, colon, space, and then there's my quotes. So that's the text I want it to print, plus then this would be num quarters. And so that would be a print quarters and then whatever was stored up here in the number of quarters. And then I'd do the same thing, right? I'd have 4 more print statements, 1 for dimes, 1 for nickels, 1 for pennies. Okay, so hopefully that will help. And again, you can just so finish up that code, look at what I did up above to kind of guide you on that. And just kind of think about how we are using the math and the input and the print statements.